What is going on, Washington fans? Welcome to the JTFB show. I'm your host, Josh Taylor, and contributor for Bleacher Report. And Washington goes ahead and knocks it out of the park with the draft, and they have a strong free agency market after the draft, and they add one of the more talented corners in that market, and that is Chigozie Anusiem out of Colorado State joining me today. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Can't complain.
So do you prefer to go by a Chigi or do you go by Chigozie?
Really, whatever. I don't really mind.
Any of them?
Yeah.
Awesome, man. So I was looking a little bit at your background. Out of California, you're a 4-star recruit coming out. You initially go to Cal, and then you transfer to Colorado State. And that seems like that's the time where things really start to break out for you. Just take us through that process of, the transition to transferring. Obviously, with the transfer portal and stuff right now, it's a popular thing. But personally, what did it do for you, and what do you think really started clicking once you got to Colorado State?
Yeah. So transferring was a decision I made to really for two reasons. One, on the football side of things, just to kind of be an assistant that more showcase my talents, and then on the school side of it, I couldn't get into the master's program meaningful at Cal, so I went ahead and made that decision. But I think when I went to Colorado State, it was just more of like able to play more free, kind of be myself more. They allowed me to play a lot more man coverage. So yeah.
I'm about to say that's one thing that stands out, especially in your press. I think that's what really helps you fit with, what Dan Quinn loves to do with his corners. I'm sure you've seen it in Dallas before he came here, just how he uses those corners. But like I said, things really started, turning along for you there at Colorado State. PFF had you as a first-team All-Mountain West in 2022. And honestly, I think your season last year was just as good. I don't know how you didn't make the team last year. You tallied up. And when I watch the tape on you, something that stands out is how physical you are, not only in coverage, but also your ability to tackle. I think that's, something that doesn't get talked about enough is how willing are you to, stuff your nose in the run game, but also reliable in the coverage game. Just looking at some stats over the last 2 years, you only allowed 558 yards total, 5 touchdowns. You had 1 interception, but 10 pass breakups and 93 tackles. Just give us a little background to Washington fans that haven't watched your tape. What kind of player are they getting here in Washington from a corner aspect? Because we do need some help in the secondary. Dan Quinn and Coach Witt, they know what they're doing with the secondary. But what kind of player can Washington expect here?
Yeah, you get a true man-to-man press corner. That's what I do. That's what I do best. I'm smart enough to learn all 3 positions, so don't be surprised if you see me at safety, corner, and some nickel. I'm going to give you guys everything I have, a major chip on my shoulder. Obviously, being undrafted, I feel like I should have been drafted, but it's okay. I'm going to make the most of my opportunities. So you getting a dog, for real.
Yeah, that's something, some people are like, oh, if you go undrafted. But, I talked to Austin Eckler not too long ago here on the show. That was a guy that went undrafted. Now look at him, one of the top running backs in the league. I think once you get your foot in the door, that's all you need. That opportunity to showcase who you are and really stick around. I did a video last night. I was telling fans, I think you're a guy that can, obviously you got to earn your spot on the team, but I think this is a guy that can compete and make an impact, and there's a reason why you had a lot of buzz. You met with the Broncos, you met with the Dolphins, the Giants, the Patriots, the Cardinals, and then you had a local day with the 49ers. Did you have any leading up to it with Washington, or was that kind of like a surprise to you?
It was a surprise. I didn't hear anything from their coaches. And, like before the draft, you get texts from a bunch of coaches, like just making sure it's your draft number. So I didn't hear anything from them. So I was pretty surprised that they were coming on as strong as they did.
So they kind of just came out of nowhere, kind of surprised you after the process.
Yeah.
What was that like? Like you said, after the draft, is it just teams blowing your phone up? Like, is it like your agent kind of talking to you, or what was that like?
So it's really both. So it's like teams are blowing you up, and then agents are also blowing you up, because some teams reach out to me, some teams reach out to my agent. So it's kind of like, it was pretty hectic. It was a very hectic 20 to 30 minutes after the draft. Yeah.
Yeah, so Washington opened up the checkbook. They said, we want this guy here. We're going to show it. From your aspect of it, was it like, hey, I think Washington's a really good fit? Did you kind of look at the roster, kind of looked at like the opportunities, or was it coaching and scheme, kind of like you said, how you went to Colorado State for that reason? What led to ultimately landing you here in Washington?
Yeah, so honestly, my decision, it was really coaching, scheme, and opportunity. Obviously, I know what they did with the corners in Dallas, so it just kind of seemed like a perfect marriage. Obviously, being in a position where I could pick where I go. I didn't want to go anywhere where the money was cool, but it wasn't really the main thing on my mind. I would have took less money for the best opportunity, if that makes sense. So,
Go ahead. I'm about to say, have you like had any conversations with Coach Quinn or Coach Witt yet, and just kind of leading up to like what to expect or like scheme wise? Obviously, like, we don't even know what to expect out of our defense yet. We haven't really seen any practice or anything like that. But have you had any contact with them yet?
No, after the draft, no, I haven't. I'm texted Adam Peters just to thank for the opportunity, but after that, I haven't had any conversation. No.
Let's see. Adam's a cool guy.
Yeah.
So I had to ask you about this. If you remember last year, Colorado State, the game against Colorado.
Yeah.
I had to ask you. I was like, because this is a game. Everybody on the East Coast, we were up till like 1 a.m. we're gonna watch this thing. This was like a main event boxing fight. In the college football aspect, though. What was that like traveling to Colorado, a team that had so much hype, before the season and everything, just because of, everything they had. But from a player standpoint, I love college football. Like, honestly, college football was my first love. It kind of just took me back to that classic, just hard-nosed physical game. Walk us through that game as a corner, and then also just being in that hostile environment.
Yeah, so one just leading up to the game, we were coming off a bye week. They had a lot of buzz. So we made it a point. That was like an old school, like, this isn't right a week to go to class or nothing. This is a week we just lock into the playbook. We pretty much lock ourselves in the building. So our coach kind of kicked it off with saying what he said in the media. So we knew it was already hatred between.
It was on.
Yeah. So no, it was really fun. The environment was crazy. It's probably the craziest game I've been a part of in my life, honestly. Lil Wayne walked them out, so it was cool. It was cool. It was a lot of bad. I think we were probably a little more like angry to say than they probably expected. Like, we was ready for that game, I'll say. Yeah.
I was about to say, because before the game, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, this is Colorado's game." I was like, low key, I was pulling for Colorado State. I'm not like a Colorado hater, but I was like, they're the underdogs. Like, Colorado was undefeated coming into it. I was like, I would love for Colorado State to come in. I was a big Dalen Holker fan too, going into the season. I was like, I want to see him show out, have a good year. Because that was like week 3, I think it was. Like, it was the 3rd game of the season. Yeah, pretty early.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, I would love for the underdog. And then they were hitting y'all with some shots, and y'all were hitting them back. But it just felt like that old school game. I was like, man, I've got to ask him about that, because, like I said, we were all like, everyone was talking about it on social media. But afterwards, so Washington said they wanted to get you here. They think you fit the scheme and everything. What about, what Dan Quinn does? What really impressed you with, maybe it's Trayvon Diggs, or you've seen what he did with Deron Bland? What really stands out about what Quinn was able to do in Dallas? The turnovers and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, I would say just allowing his corners to be aggressive. Obviously, it's a league where, corners you're going to get beat if you want to field long enough, and that's okay. But just allowing them to be aggressive and being confident to go make those plays and be aggressive in jump routes and stuff. So I felt like something in my game that I definitely want to explore a lot more, and I feel like it's in me for sure. I feel like he can bring those traits out of me for sure.
Yeah, because, looking at the draft profile and everything, you have some media members are talking like, oh, the only thing that really hurts you is your lack of like ball production. But there's people in the league that, like, even if you don't have interceptions, as long as you're getting like stops. I mean, like I said, you had 10 pass breakups over the last 2 years. As long as you're in a position to succeed, then you can make your mark in the league. I don't think you have to have interceptions. And it's nice.
A lot of things on my stats is like, if you really watch our whole season, I probably got targeted like 6 total times this past season. That's why my target is way higher than my pass deflection this year. But
yeah, no, they're gonna find out, man. It's all right. The draft heads are gonna talk. But I was excited to get you here. So I'm a big wide receiver fan. I know you're not. Complete opposite on that one. But I love watching tapes, and I talked to a bunch of guys leading up to the draft, like wide receiver prospects, and how they really go through their routes. Obviously like release packages and stuff like that. So I want to ask you kind of the opposite, especially as a press man. You want to get up in there, you want to jam them at the line, you kind of want to stop them from, getting that leverage on you, getting your hips open and getting the release package going. How do you really diagnose a wide receiver before a route? Like, you line up with them, whether it's in press man, off, bail, whatever you're playing. How do you really just look at a wide receiver and be like, all right, this is how I'm about to attack this guy?
Yeah, so really it's just studying his tendencies on film. Some guys are stronger on their right side, some guys are stronger on their left side. So understanding that going into it, understanding like how they like to release with certain routes and with certain leverages. So I'll kind of just play with my leverage. I'll probably give a receiver about 2-3 different looks in the first couple of drives. If they're not really doing anything to get me out of my main technique, I probably won't change it at all. But I go up there with a tool belt and be ready for a counter punch. So I like to think of myself when I press as like a counter punch, because I'm really waiting for him to move and countering off that.
Yeah, kind of get him off so he can't get that, leverage in his stem. I like it. Is there a certain corner in the league that you kind of watch a lot to see how they react to certain things that you kind of build your game off of?
Yes, a few. So Pastor 10 right now, I think he has some of the best technique in the league.
Too. I'm an Alabama fan, so I love hearing that.
Yeah, Pastor 10 for sure. AJ Terrell's another good press man corner. And then Darius Slay.
Darius Slay. So I'm sure you know this by now, but when you enter camp, you're going to see a wide receiver named Terry McLaurin. And he's a fan favorite. Like, we absolutely love Terry. He's a, pro guy on the field and off the field as well. And then you have Jahan Dotson. We drafted Luke McCaffrey too. So we got some dogs. What do you think about this wide receiver group? And, are you excited, going against some of the best in the league in Terry McLaurin and kind of sharpening your game, kind of test yourself out, like hitting the ground running with Terry?
100%. I mean, this is a competitive league. So, I mean, if I can go get one of the best every day, day in, day out, I mean, why not? I'm not going to shy away from it. So I'm excited for sure.
So I'm glad you're here. Go ahead and tell the fans where they can follow you on social media so they can keep up with you throughout this journey as you go to camp. Like I said, we'll see you at training camp. We'll see you at OTAs. And then I think you'll be there week 1 as well.
Yeah, appreciate it. So my Instagram is Chigi, CHIGI_07. Twitter is CHIGI_123. So that's my handle, yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, Chigi, I appreciate you stopping by, man. Good luck. Like I said, I'll see you at OTAs. Check back in and see how everything's going. But I appreciate you stopping by, man.
I appreciate you having me.